Welcome to Faith for Life, Week 2. We've been reading in our book, The Faith of Leap, by Michael Frost and Alan Hirsch. This week we read the intro, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Let's start by looking at a quote from page 16. This, Abraham leaving his country and going to the land God would show him, took a leap of faith to be sure, but it is also a near-perfect example of what we call the faith of leap. All the elements explored in this book, risk, adventure, courage, and the implications for church, discipleship, mission, and the self, are in some seminal way contained as well as demonstrated in Abraham's courageous response to God. Faith is the central topic in this book, and on page 16, Frost and Hirsch talk about faith as it relates to our salvation and our call to live out our salvation. They say, it is precisely this type of risk-embracing, adventure-engaging, courageous faith in God that justifies. Without it, we cannot even be saved, let alone live the Christian life. It is not superfluous to the Christian life. We are saved by faith, but we are also called to continue living by the same faith. So my questions to you, a couple of them are, what are some tangible ways that you can say you live by faith? Is it how you manage your money? How you manage your relationships? What does your prayer life look like? And are you looking forward to your future? Here's another quote to look at. If you are reading this book, chances are that you have already taken the leap of saving faith. But like all who are called to follow Jesus, you are required to live with the faith of leap. All disciples of Jesus, not just a select few, are called to an ongoing, risky, actional, extravagant way of life. A life resonant with that distinctly wild and yes, Christ-like faithfulness of their Lord and Master. This is the faith that is willing to leap into service of his unfurling reign in this world, believing that by so doing we are partnering with him in a cosmic project for the regeneration of all things, far and away more amazing than anything we could have conceived of ourselves. Now, this course is unique because it is specifically geared toward ELN students. This means you have the privilege of earning academic experience while gaining ministry experience. Many traditional college students simply don't have this. I want you to be thinking reflectively and also critically about your current experience as an ELN student, and also about what you want to achieve as a lifelong leader in ministry, whether that's as a full-time paid staff member at a church, or as a volunteer for a parachurch ministry, or somewhere in between. Now, let's look at a big word that can be hard to grasp, but one we'll keep coming back to over and over in this course. It's liminality. Frost and Hirsch talk about it like this. Liminality is the term we use to describe a threshold experience. It is composed of any or a combination of danger, marginality, disorientation, or ordeal, and tends to create a space that is neither here nor there, a transitional stage between what was and what is to come. As a result, it is experienced as a place of discomfort and agitation that requires us to endure and push into what is to come. Liminality, it seems, is the true context of a quest, and whether we like it or not, we are all on a journey, a quest if you will, every day of our lives, and the path we must take is full of perils, and our destiny can never be predicted in advance. You may have moments of thinking, I have arrived, when you settle into a new place like your ELN program, for example. But what is more likely is that you go from one season to the next, experiencing a slight discomfort that propels you to progress to the next step. Now, you completed week 1 of this course by taking part in a forum and writing a paper. If you sat back and thought, I have completed this quest and the rest of the course will be a breeze, you might be in for a surprise. Each week will start over with a new lecture, a new reading, a new forum, and at least one new paper. In essence, the quest will begin afresh each week. You may have already begun to experience the fact that church ministry has a similar rhythm. Most church work begins on Tuesdays and ramps up to weekend services. There are variations to this, but the weekend services are usually the culmination of all the hard work during the week, and then it starts all over again. Now, it's rare for a ministry leader to be at one church or place of ministry for their entire life, and for whatever reason, we tend to hop around to at least a couple of different places a handful of different times. You could consider this a sort of cross-pollination. It could be considered a really positive thing for ministry. So there's also a rhythm of change that we can expect to see over the course of our entire life. Now, Frost and Hirsch say this: "We are the people of the ultimate quest. We are on a wild and sometimes dangerous adventure to save the world." Wherever you land during the different seasons of your ministry life, just remember, they aren't meant to be disjointed, detached episodes. They're all part of the great quest we get to be a part of. Let's look at the next point together. On page 21, Frost and Hirsch say this: "We are the people born of the Missio Dei. This means that the church is a result of the missionary activity of God and not the producer of it. The church is therefore defined by its mission and not the other way around. And this mission of redemption is not yet fulfilled. Therefore, we are still on the journey. As in our previous books, we say that Christology, our primary theology, determines missiology, our purpose and function, which in turn determines ecclesiology, the forms and expressions of the church. We are the missional people of God, and we have a job to accomplish that only we, as Jesus people, can do." In other words, the church doesn't have an agenda, it is the agenda. The church doesn't have a missional strategy, it is the missional strategy. And there is no better time to recognize this. As Frost and Hirsch point out, the church is up against a real serious transition. We're coming from the center to margins. In Christendom, the Christian story and the churches were central, but in post-Christendom, these are marginal. From majority to minority. In Christendom, Christians comprise the often overwhelming majority, but in post-Christendom, we are a minority. From settlers to sojourners. In Christendom, Christians felt at home in a culture shaped by our story, but in post-Christendom, we are aliens, exiles, and pilgrims in a culture where we no longer feel at home. From privilege to plurality. In Christendom, Christians enjoyed many privileges, but in post-Christendom, we are one community among many in a plural society. From control to witness. In Christendom, churches could exert control over society, but in post-Christendom, we exercise influence only through witnessing to our story and its implications. From maintenance to mission. In Christendom, the emphasis was on maintaining a supposedly Christian status quo, but in post-Christendom, it is on a mission within a contested environment. And finally, from institution to movement. In Christendom, churches operated mainly in institutional mode, but in post-Christendom, we must again become a Christian movement. Essentially, the church, as it has been known for centuries, is in crisis. But, as Frost and Hirsch say, crisis is no bad thing. In fact, it's an opportunity to rediscover the adventurous church. And finally, the church should be one of the most adventurous places on earth, the locus of all quest, the highly adaptive Jesus community at the very forefront of what God is doing in the world. But let's be honest, this is not the case with the church as we know it. I hope this final quote is a challenge to you as we progress with the reading for the rest of the semester. Let's look at the 2 discussion questions that we're going to face for our Week 2 forum. Remember, in our forums we have 2 questions and you're only supposed to answer 1. You're welcome to answer 2, but your assignment is to answer 1 in an initial post. The first is, what is an example of liminality in your personal faith experience? And the second is, what is a real-life example of a church that you know being adventurous? Make your initial post by midnight Wednesday. Respond to 2 of your class members' posts by midnight Friday. I look forward to hearing from you.